episode of Tea with B kind of delves into some self-realizations that I had recently along the theme of putting heavy stuff down. You know, like I'm not talking about the weights, I'm talking about like emotional baggage. Stuff that has a potential to hold you back that you don't realize is necessarily. And I've recently been doing some reflection work and reading back all of my old journals from the past 6 years, which has been a lot. So I figured a Tea with B episode is perfect for this situation. And I think I made quite a bit of growth in that aspect that I just want to, debrief using various tools, one tool being therapy. And that's why I'm glad that this video is sponsored by BetterHelp. They're who I trusted to start my therapy journey with so many years ago before they were even a sponsor on this channel. They just could not have made the process more streamlined to starting therapy. I was extremely nervous to begin with because, just like telling someone else your thoughts and feelings is extremely intimidating. It's not something I necessarily wanted to do, but something that I knew I could potentially benefit from. And they just took so much friction out of the process. You sign up, you fill out a questionnaire, you're matched with a vetted professional therapist within like a couple of days. And then from there you have the option to explore therapy in any way that's comfortable to you, whether, it's just messaging back and forth with your therapist on a phone call or even on a video call in the comfort of your own home. So there's no awkward waiting room or sterile office. You have a journal inside the platform for self-reflection. There are group therapy sessions that cover a wide range of topics every single day. And I think one of the best features that BetterHelp has is that if for whatever reason you're not really meshing well with your therapist, you have the option to switch to a new one until you find one that you connect with. Because listen, I think a huge misconception with therapy is that like this person is going to fix you. Whereas I personally think like a therapist's job is there to help facilitate, ask the right questions, whatever else, so you can experience insight into your own situation, look at things through a new perspective, and be able to like participate in some self-growth. And yeah, you definitely have to go through a couple therapists till you find that person that clicks with your style of learning. So if you're struggling and you think that you can benefit from therapy yourself, you can go ahead and try out BetterHelp. Click that link in my description or go to betterhelp.com/Beatrice and get 10% off your first month of therapy. Huge thank you again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Now let's get into it. We're just gonna lock the door because there's a random man with a power tool in his hand walking by. Seeing as we're in the middle of a grocery store parking lot for this episode of Tea with B. Oh, he's just fixing a mailbox. Never mind, he's fine. Better safe than sorry, ladies. Am I right? Anyways, we've got our thermos full of spearmint tea. We're in a random parking lot. The perfect setup for an episode of Tea with B. Anyways, what inspired this, what is probably going to be an absolute chatty mess of ash can ramblings, is I recently went on a marathon of looking back through my journals, which I started keeping in 2017 through now. So about 6 years of shameless inner monologue written out. I spent 2 whole days reading through these things, mainly because I was feeling a bit down, and I have a tendency when I'm feeling down to go on a problem-solving spree. So the idea was to deep dive into my past, look for patterns, look for solutions, that sort of thing. It was pretty interesting because I haven't looked at these journals in quite a while, and it's a lot like going to a movie where you know like where it ends up, but you forgot a lot of the middle bit along the way. So I'm seeing all these struggles I had, insecurities, not knowing whether things would work out or not, setbacks, situations where I really wanted a certain outcome, but that didn't happen at all, and of course, some successes. And I didn't necessarily find any answers, but as I caught up all the way to present, I felt 2 things. First and foremost, absolutely exhausted. My inner monologue is relentless. it's a constant loop of the things that I have to do, how I need to do them, arbitrary timelines of when I need to complete certain tasks in, and then ultimately not sticking to whatever rigidity I set for myself and failing, but like not really failing. Like there's still like some progress there. It's just like never living up to my own standards that I've set for myself. But then the second feeling of absolutely overwhelming peace just kind of washed over me. I felt lighter than I have in a really long time. And this is kind of like a two-part thing. This was the second part, and I'll get to the first part in a bit after I explain like the journal thing. But I felt this overwhelming sense of peace, and I think it's because I've written enough at this point to have a new perspective on a lot of the situations in my life that I viewed as bad. And what I realized about these bad things that have happened is some butterfly effect type shit. You know, if I didn't experience these negative things that made me swerve seemingly completely off path, I would not have been aligned to bump into things that ended up being super positive for me. You know, the good stuff that was off course, people I would not have met, wouldn't have learned certain things, would not have been at the right place at the right time. And I beat myself up a lot for not doing things quick enough. And I think I already had this like internal narrative that, you know, I wasn't doing things fast enough when other people also expressed that for certain aspects. Like, for example, it took me a long time to figure out what I wanted to do in college. So I, you know, spent a lot of time in school, like trying to figure it out, changing my major a lot. And there were people who were in my life at the time, not now, that, you know, made me feel bad about that and made me feel like I was never going to like amount to anything. And because I already had this internal narrative of this stuff that I've been telling myself, then when external forces said the same thing or was reflected back at me, you know, I really took it to heart, like, oh, other people are noticing it too. But now, like, rereading these things and knowing where I'm at now, like, this weight just like came off of my shoulders that I didn't even know was there. Like this weird pressure that I put on myself to do things, and the pressure kind of inhibiting my ability to do things, or, you know, like wanting to do them perfectly and being afraid that I'm not going to do them perfectly. But being able to like look back on these situations and like have this perspective of, oh, this is where we end up, and seeing all along because something didn't work out at this moment, it set me up for something way better here. Like, for example, I was really upset that I didn't get like a certain internship for graphic design when I was in college, and I was like really beating myself up about that, but I ended up getting a way better job fresh out of school because I wasn't in the midst of an internship. It's just like multiple examples of that. And it's wild. And, you know, of course I'll still see hard times as hard times, but I think I'll be able to like appreciate them more and not just absolutely freak out about them, you know, because I have this hindsight now. And by no means am I saying that I'm just going to be like blasé about goals now and not really try and just like hope everything will work out for the best. Like there's still going to be effort there. But if things end up taking longer than I think in my head that they should take, like I'm not going to stress about that. Just going to try to value the process. But no guarantees that I'm not going to whinge about it because, you know, the toxic positivity BS is for the birds. I like my shit grounded in reality, and sucky things suck. But you can acknowledge that it sucks and still find value in having gone through the sucky stuff. But probably the biggest thing, and you know, what this channel was founded on, is weight loss. It's just something that I have not been able to like maintain or like figure out for myself. And I'm currently 13 pounds down since May, which in my head, I was like, it's too slow. Like, you're not losing weight fast enough. Other people feel the same way. But like right now, I'm like, the time doesn't really matter. Like, I'm headed in the direction that I want to head in. It's not so serious. Like, the only person I have to impress is me. Like, my weight is not affecting these other people. So I just need to like chill. But I feel like I figured some stuff out, mainly with like a perspective shift that will make a difference. And through reading back on the past, I realized like how much progress I actually did make. As far as like binge eating, which was a major problem of mine. Like there there are passages in that journal that are just detailing me cleaning out my car with full-size trash bag, all of these fast food wrappers that accumulated in the span of like a week, a couple of days. And I think I forgot how bad it was because like I don't do that anymore. I don't even have the urge to do that anymore. It's been a long time since I've binged. And if you're someone who has the same issue, you're probably wondering how I did it. And to that, I just want to let you know, like, there are a million different reasons that people binge. So don't think that what I did will work for you or what anyone else did. It's kind of something that you have to figure out, like, why you're doing it to, like, address it a little bit better. Like, what is the purpose that binging is providing you? Because even though it's an unhealthy habit, it serves a purpose. For me, it was helping me cope with feelings that I didn't really process that well. It was how I found comfort. It was how I coped with things that were beyond my control. I think ultimately because I have like this really rigid outlook on what I'm supposed to do, when I'm supposed to do it, whatever. But it definitely served a purpose for me. And even though it was not a healthy behavior, I acknowledge that it wasn't a healthy behavior. It helped me in some way. And once I kind of found other ways to deal with what the binging was doing for me, tried a ton of different things. Therapy, journaling, meditation, yoga. I learned to cook pretty well, which people don't necessarily think of, but like if I'm able to make healthy food, give me some of that like indulgence that I was getting from like eating out or like preferring to cook at home, you know, like that kind of thing. It's helpful. And then there's like a certain level of pride in like making your own food and whatever else. And I'm kind of getting like deep into it where I'm like, shit, let's try out this homestead thing. So hence chickens. And now getting my own eggs and wanting to do a garden, even though I kill everything. But we'll eventually figure that out too. But also like a whole lot of crying. If you're an OG to this channel, you may remember like I couldn't even like speak about certain things. If things hit a nerve, if I was like a little bit like they were just mildly emotional, just welling up over here. And if you notice that I haven't been doing that lately, I think it's because I kind of like imagine your emotions as like a cup, okay? I think my cup runneth over at the beginning of this channel, and talking about these things either in therapy or, you know, just journaling them out kind of released a lot of that reserve of emotion. So when I'm talking about things that are a little bit emotional, I'm not like at the cusp of the cup. It's not like spilling over for the smallest thing, and I'm able to like articulate and my throat doesn't get all like closed up and weird. I'm able to speak about these things more easily because I've worked through them better, if that makes any sense at all. But once I gave myself certain tools, I had different outlets. I just, not all at once, but I just noticed my binge episodes being less in volume, happening less frequently. Then all of a sudden I like woke up and I was like, oh, it's been like a year since I binged. Now don't get me wrong, I still enjoy really indulgent fancy foods. I still like going out to eat all of the time, and that's currently where I'm at now. Like my binging was something I did alone in my car. You know, I would get stuff from the place, have it DoorDashed or whatever, and like just have these smorgasbords. Whereas now I still want to like go out, have, you know, an indulgent meal or whatever. By no means the volume when I was like binging, but like I think it's serving a more social purpose now, where I need to kind of reframe it and be like, okay, I need to start like choosing healthier options when I go out to eat. If I go out to eat like more frequently, maybe find different ways of being social, which is kind of hard in this town that doesn't really have anything other to do than eat. I mean, like, I guess there's outdoorsy stuff, but I've never really been outdoorsy, and a lot of the people that I spend time with are older people, which, you know, could benefit from some kind of physical thing too, but I'm not going to wag my 83-year-old nan all around the trails when it has a busted knee, you know? Plus, I'm a foodie. Like, I really enjoy food. Like, I get something from it. It's just what I'm interested in. But, you know, that's where learning how to cook and figuring out ways to make things healthier, getting more veggies, less preservatives, stuff comes in. But the second bit that I mentioned of, you know, just like this feeling of peace and this weight off my shoulder is I talked to my dad for the first time in about maybe 7-8 years. Me, my sister, him, my mom went to a movie, and it was just kind of like a clean slate. We didn't talk about the past. He didn't apologize, and that's okay. If you didn't know, I talked about it in the past, but I cut off my dad because he's just kind of like a really confusing person. He just like makes up stories. He's kind of like very delusional. I'm not sure if there is a mental illness aspect to it, on top of having a gambling addiction and that being as messy as that is throughout my childhood. What really affected me in adulthood was making up lies about me to me, just from like little things like saying like he took me to see all the Harry Potter movies when I haven't seen them up until like recently, you know, and just like escalating things on that, like telling other people in my family that I was like this party animal and like in all these dangerous situations when I've only been to one high school party in my entire life. Like, it was just like really a lot mentally to take on, where, you know, I'm trying to figure out who I am as a person, and then you're just combating someone just making up things about you to, you know, other people, and then you get questioned about things, and it's just like ridiculous, and you always feel like you have to prove yourself. But that's the reason I cut him out of my life, because it's just like too much to take on when you're already like trying to fight yourself about all of these different things, you know, just growing up. But me and my mom were talking about it, and learning things about his childhood kind of maybe explains some of these behaviors. Like, don't get me wrong, like he's still at fault for them, but like I think it gave me a little bit more sympathy toward him, like things from his childhood. And I just feel like he's getting older. My grandma on his side is getting older. She's like in her 90s, like almost 100. And I just feel like I'm at a place in my life where I can accept him for who he is, you know, because he's not going to change. He doesn't see the things that he does as wrong. But I'm at a place in my life now where I'm solid. Like I feel unshakable in that way, where I don't feel the need to prove anything anymore. Like prove my worth or prove that I'm a good person or, you know, whatever else. Oh, fudge. I'm trying to go into the grocery store after this, and I don't want to seem like I was crying in my car. And I'm sweaty as hell. Anyways, so we went to the movies, pretend like nothing happened, whatever, and so now I speak to my dad again. And this happened like 3-4 weeks ago at this point. And since then, I just feel like light. Because even though like I felt justified in like, okay, like just not seeing him anymore, like it's still like there's like a lot of sadness I felt about abandoning him. It makes me sad that he's, you know, alone a lot of the time. And that's kind of one of my big hangups. Like, I don't want anybody to be alone. I'm very focused on like taking care of the people in my life. And like it hurts my heart when I think about like old people who, you know, are alone and don't have anyone to help them. So I just felt a ton of grief about that. But since seeing him, like there's just been like this weight off. And I've noticed, like, since seeing him, the physical weight also has been creeping off when I've had, like, a lot of trouble with the scale. You know, and I was trying to figure out, like, all of this stuff about, like, my hormones and, like, what's going on with me and trying to figure out nutrition and stuff. And I haven't really been, like, changing what I've been eating. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting that since that moment, it's been easier to lose weight. And since reading through the journals and stuff, I used to have, like, this constant just pressure in my stomach, like it was in a vice or something, just constantly. I thought like it was anxiety. I mean, it could be purely speculative, but I'm just saying. I don't know, but that is all of the heavy stuff that I've had on my mind recently and that I've been doing and I haven't said. And I was kind of contemplating, especially whether or not to like talk about the dad stuff on here, just because, you know, I started out like super honest on this channel, and then like I kind of became a little bit more guarded with things as the channel blew up, and then like, you know, I gained some weight back and people had their opinions on things, and I don't know, I read on like some online forum, like all of these things, like, okay, the internet the internet is basically my dad. When it comes to like just making up stories, and like I've read comments of just like these outlandish claims, like not even opinions, just like saying like for certainty that things had happened. For example, one comment was like about my grandma's cat and that she didn't like it anymore, so she took it back to the pound. Like, where the hell did you get that from? Like, people are just like blatantly making things up, and it's wild. But yeah. Just like my dad, I gotta accept the internet for what it is and just know the truth myself, and it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing, so you just gotta do what you want to do. And what I set out doing for this channel was documenting my journey, so this is a huge part of it. So there you go, and maybe it will help someone else in some regard, maybe, or if it doesn't, this is the tea. Speaking of the tea, I haven't taken a single sip of my tea once. Oh my god. Ugh. It is somehow still scalding hot. I have thoroughly burned myself, so I'm gonna go into the grocery store now, burnt, sweaty as hell, having just cried, and get stuff for dinner. Ugh. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!